Hey, welcome! Today we're diving into a really wild story from the book Solomon Speaks on Reconnecting Your Life. This is a journey where science and spirituality, well, they just collide. It all kicks off with this very successful, very logical doctor whose entire world gets turned completely upside down by something he just cannot explain. Just let that sink in for a minute. Imagine leaving work for the weekend as one person, and by the time you come back on Monday, the very fabric of your reality has been rewritten. That right there, that single quote from Dr. Eric Pearl, it just perfectly sets the stage for the absolute whirlwind that's about to happen. All right, so let's get right into the first chapter of this story, A Doctor's Strange New Reality. We're starting back in the early 90s with Dr. Eric Pearl. He's got a thriving chiropractic practice in LA. He's a man of science, grounded in what's tangible. But his entire world is about to get very, very strange. It all starts kind of subtly, back in August of '93. Dr. Pearl wakes up in the middle of the night, and a lamp in his house has just turned itself on. And more than that, he feels this undeniable presence in the room with him. So he does what any of us would probably do, grabs a knife and his Doberman to look for an intruder. But he finds absolutely nothing. He just tries to shrug it off, maybe it's just his imagination. But this thing, whatever it wasn't just staying at his house. The very next Monday, things escalate. This is where it gets really weird. 7 different patients, people who don't know each other at all, they all report feeling these unseen people in the treatment room with them. That same creepy feeling from his house is now being verified by his own patients. There's no way he can dismiss it anymore. And if you thought that was strange, well, the story takes an even wilder turn. Patients start having these experiences that just defy all medical logic. They'd say they could feel his hands on them when he was standing clear across the room. And then the reports of miraculous healings started flooding in. We're talking lab results coming back showing cancers had just vanished. Children with severe disabilities suddenly walking and talking. And the whole time Dr. Pearl is just baffled, insisting, "I'm not doing anything." You can imagine, for a man of science, this is a lot to carry on your own. It's a mystery he can't solve. But his path was about to cross with someone from a completely different world, someone who had been living with this kind of inexplicable stuff their entire life. So here are our 2 main characters. On one side, you've got Dr. Eric Pearl, the grounded scientist struggling to make sense of what's happening. And on the other side, you've got Fred Ponzlov, an actor who, since he was a little kid, had been hearing a voice he couldn't explain and having these really terrifying psychic experiences. 2 polar opposites. And their 2 separate, strange timelines just smashed together in January 1994. Fred comes in as a patient to see Dr. Pearl. During the session, Fred suddenly goes into this deep, trance-like state. And for the first time ever, that voice he'd been hearing for decades speaks through him. But here's the absolute kicker. Over the next 3 months, more than 50 of Dr. Pearl's other patients, people who had never met Fred, start channeling the exact same phrases, word for word. And this was that core message they all repeated. It was this direct confirmation for Dr. Pearl that even though he didn't understand what was happening, he was on the right path. I mean, having dozens of totally unrelated people repeat the same message verbatim, that's something far, far beyond simple coincidence. So, this all leads us to the million-dollar question. Who is Solomon? If this message wasn't coming from Fred, and it wasn't coming from the other 50 patients, then who, or what, was this intelligence that was communicating through all of them? Right, this was the central mystery. They had to call this voice something, so for the sake of conversation, they landed on the name Solomon. But as they were about to find out, figuring out what Solomon is, well, that was way more complicated than just giving a spirit a name. So what the book tells us is that Solomon isn't, a ghost or some single distinct entity. It describes itself as a great confluence of energy. Think of it more like a collective, a whole family of energies that have come together to help guide people during this time of huge change on our planet. I absolutely love this metaphor they use to explain it. It's so perfect. Solomon is the wind. It's this powerful, unseen source energy. The words that came through Fred and the others, that's like the sound of the leaves rustling. It's the audible, understandable proof that the wind is there. The words themselves aren't the source. They just point you towards it. Okay, so now that we have a sense of who's talking, let's get into what they're actually saying. The core message is all about one thing: reconnection. And it lays out a really clear path for anyone, not just healers, who feels like they're just starting out on this kind of journey. So, Solomon breaks it down into a few key ideas. First, and this is huge, you've got to trust your instinct above everything else. See it as your direct line to this universal intelligence. Second, and this is a big mind shift for a lot of us, you have to focus on the process, on the journey itself, not the end result. The growth happens in the doing. Third, you have to reframe your problems. They're not roadblocks, they're lessons, basically opportunities for growth just waiting for you. And finally, and this might sound a little backward, the most powerful way to help other people is to focus on healing yourself first. And this next point, wow, it really changes the whole paradigm. Solomon's teaching says that you are not the active doer of healing. Your job isn't to fix anyone. Your role is simply to become a clear channel, a facilitator, someone who opens a door for another person. But whether they choose to walk through that door and claim their own potential for healing, that decision is and always will be theirs alone. So, where does all this leave us? After all the strange lights, the voices, the miraculous healings, what's the big takeaway for you and me, right here, right now? How does this all apply to our own lives? It all comes back to this one powerful idea. The real prize isn't in reaching some final destination or getting a specific outcome. The real value is in the living of it, the learning, the struggling, the discovering, that entire journey. That is the point.
And it's so important to get this. This philosophy isn't just for people into alternative medicine. Not at all. It's really a universal roadmap for anyone who feels a little disconnected. It's about looking up, realizing we're all part of something much bigger, and finding our own alignment with that. It's a call to remember a part of ourselves that maybe we've forgotten.
So, we'll leave you with this to think about. If, like Solomon says, your own instinct is directly connected to this universal wisdom, what is it telling you right now, in this moment? Hey, thank you so much for hanging out with us for this explainer. If this story sparked something in you, we would love to hear about it down in the comments. And of course, if you want to support what we do, liking this and subscribing to the channel makes a huge difference. We'll see you on the next one.